For those who have been on another planet for the last 13 years, I'll just fill you in with what's been happening. 13 years ago to the day, an event occurred on September the 11th, which till this day has been known as 9/11. Some may say an incredible coincidence. It is the emergency call number. This day changed the world as it knows it like in no other time in history. It created a new phenomena, a phenomenon known as the illusion of terror. The official story tells us an ex-CIA operative living in a cave 10,000 miles away, who was 2 months away from death, suffering from Marfan syndrome, and on a kidney dialysis machine with a 20-inch television and a few hard drives, managed to entice 19 young Arab kids who wouldn't know how to drive a car, let alone fly a commercial jet, to hijack 4 American planes all at the same time. Funnily enough, none of these guys were from Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Egypt or Iran. 15 of these guys were Saudis. Even though none of the guys were booked on the 4 separate flights, they all managed to board them with ease with no questions asked. Without any problems whatsoever, all 4 crew of these planes gladly allowed these kids to take over the planes and do as they wished. With passengers and crew just watching on, the so-called hijackers all of a sudden became the greatest pilots the world has ever seen. 2 chose to fly perfectly into each of the twin towers with such precision that they even came out the other end nose intact. The 3rd flew in circles, then 10 foot off the ground into the most highly guarded building on the planet, the Pentagon. Even with 1,000 security cameras around this building till this day, we have seen no vision of this plane. I wonder why. The 4th did a disappearing act, flying into the ground into a forest, never to be seen again. Till this day, no bodies or plane parts have been recovered, and not a single question from the parents of the so-called dead passengers asking why aren't they recovered. You'd think all this happened in a 4th grade country, but no, it happened in the most powerful, sophisticated, trillion-dollar defence and security system the world has ever seen. To make matters worse, the twin towers collapsed within an hour, even though there was no fire or structural damage. As well, a 3rd building, the World Trade Center 7, a 47-story building, collapsed later in the afternoon, and it wasn't even hit by a plane. First time in history buildings have collapsed by so-called non-fires, not 1 but 3 in the one day. It's never happened before or after this day. Immediately the media and the US government pinned the attack on the CIA operative, and he was known as the boogeyman, Osama I Did Nothing Laden. This day marked the start of a new war. It was known as the War on Terror. Unlike conventional wars, it served the purpose as it had no ending. From that day on, everything was now a terror act, and anyone who killed or threatened to kill or just talked about events was now a terrorist. So from that day, terror was the new buzzword. It was used by the powers to be to put fear in everyone's minds. Fear causes people to look to their governments for help. But when governments are there, not for the people, but to serve the control system, all that happens is they tell people to give up their liberties for security. In the end, the result is neither. It's a perfect scenario for the control system. Lose your liberty and replace it, not with security, but more of Big Brother is watching you. So with Boogeyman Laden in his cave defeating a $1 trillion defence and security system, I guess they would find him in a few days and dispose of him. Well, they did, but it took them 10 years. Satellites obviously don't work too well over caves in Afghanistan or Pakistan. Meanwhile, this new war on terror was a good idea to take over the Middle East. But to do this, the powers that be needed to get the sympathy from the population of the Allies. So they staged a 7/7 attack in London, followed by the Bali bombings. This got the zombie populations of Britain and Australia all excited and supporting the total destruction of the Arab world. Even though Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, they would be the first to be used as target practice by the peacekeeping USA and its allies, including their best buddy, the United States of Australia. A once good pal of the USA, who they'd supplied chemical weapons so nicely to kill his own people, Mr. Saddam Hussein's use-by date expired, so they removed him and sent him off to live his last few days with his other 7 lookalikes on a remote island. While this was going on, thousands of Allied soldiers were holidaying in Afghanistan, looking for 100 CIA-created guys known as the Taliban. As they were doing this, they had nothing else to do but take over the oil and opium plants across the country. This war on terror against 100 so-called terrorists went on for over 10 years, with nothing achieved but a few losses of life where brain-dead military stood on their own planted mines. 10 plus years and hardly a bullet fired. I guess the war on terror is way different to the old conventional wars. So once Iraq was made another central bank state, the target practice went on to other countries such as Libya, Egypt and so on. But the one big glitch in the armour is Iran, together with its strong partner Syria. To complete this agenda of the Middle East takeover, these two countries must be eliminated, which would then bring in Russia and China and World War III. As all this was going on, Israel was busily doing its ethnic cleansing on Palestine, without a murmur from anyone. In fact, we know that Israel are the major players in this whole game. USA and Israel are the same. They may as well be called the United States of Israel. Even though Iran has no nuclear weaponry, it needs to be destroyed because it has the capability of creating them. Anyone has the capability of creating nuclear weapons. That doesn't give anyone the right to attack them. Israel has the 3rd highest stockpile after USA and Russia. Why doesn't anyone attack them? We know why. Because it's Israel, aka USA, who want to rid the Arab world. While this is going on, the games are being played using make-believe commercial planes going missing, being blown out of the sky, with fake passengers dying. Just more reason to get the unsuspecting people from the allies such as Australia to think that this is all real and that war is needed. The loosely termed peacemakers could easily destroy Syria and Iran, but they need the public to believe that they are not the aggressors and that they are the good guys. So recently a horsehead named Con Kerry lied to the world that Syria was using chemical weapons on their own people. Even the brain dead saw this as a lie. They went away and decided to create a new Al-Qaeda and called them ISIS. So they used this new group to cause trouble in Iraq and Syria. Using more propaganda to push their agenda, they created a pitiful hoax of a beheading of a United States of Israel journalist. After spewing the fakest video ever shown for a few days on all media, they realised it was so bad they removed it from social media and threatened anyone who watched or talked about it would be labelled a terrorist. You see, it's that dreaded word, terrorist, that no one wants to be labelled if you oppose the government's official story, or should I say, official lie. So that's it in a nutshell. The psychopaths who have run this planet are in full swing towards a World War III, and nothing will stop them. The only thing that will stop them is people power. We must awake quickly in our millions, if not billions. We must tell our governments to start governing for the people and not for the psychopaths, or we will throw them out onto the streets and expose them for their crimes. We must get control of the media, as it has for far too long been our biggest killer. Our minds have been brainwashed for far too long. We need to stop joining the military. We need to get the military and police to start protecting the people and not treating them like useless eaters. We need to end the psychopathic controlled governments using their fear, stay in fear and we will control you policy. Give me your liberty and I will give you Big Brother. Time is running out. We can do it. We must do it. We can do it now.